Hello there, today we're talking about Sonic Adventure Battle 2 and why I'm finally getting rid of it. Now, before you go and leave an angry comment because you judged an entire video off of a thumbnail and a title, be sure to actually listen to what I have to say, especially at the end where I'm going to mention how me getting rid of this game is actually really good for fans of the game. Before we get into my number one problem, which again, this is a video game, my opinion is entirely subjective, so calm down. I do like quite a bit about this game, namely the intro sequence. I mean, City Escape, come on. That has to be one of the greatest opening scenes to a game ever. Not just a Sonic game. It's got a really awesome soundtrack. The attitude of the characters is just fantastic. And it's just a really great level. Unfortunately, it's kind of all downhill from there, literally and metaphorically. But I do really like the music. I have yet to encounter a Sonic game where I wasn't impressed by the soundtrack and sound design. They're all pretty much top-notch. And another thing that I liked is the multiplayer. The multiplayer is pretty freaking fun. But something that I realized as the years went on is that I really only had a lot of fun with this game in 30-second intervals playing it with cousins. And I never actually sat down to try and play it all the way through until I owned it as an adult. And so that kind of leads me into my number one problem with this game, which is that overall, I only like 1/3 of it. And if you're trying to guess which third that is, it's the Sonic and Shadow levels. So there's only 10 of them, and there's about 31 emblems total, which means that I only like 1/3 of this game. The Sonic and Shadow levels are pretty well done, but because of the nature of Sonic, Sonic goes fast, right? That's kind of his whole thing. It takes a lot of resources to develop Sonic and Shadow levels because they go so fast, they require more space. And so in order to make a game that feels more full, the developers have to add additional things, right? That's why we got the Werehog. The Werehog was there to slow things down so that they didn't have to develop as many assets, right? And so I understand why this is done from a developer's perspective. But from a fun perspective, I just don't have a lot of fun with those other types of stages. The hunting stages with the emeralds and the radar is janky, and I just really did not enjoy platforming. Keep in mind this is a Dreamcast game, so you're dealing with early 3D platforming, and it's not great. It might even be as bad as Mario 64, and oh shoot, did I just insult Mario 64? But because of that, the platforming and the camera movement, those hunting stages are just kind of janky. The mech stages are functional, right? I understand that the point of them is to be kind of a combo style game, a lot more similar to like an old school on-rails shoot 'em up, but they're still uninspired and pretty bland. And they have platforming, and the mechs platform even worse than the characters. They handle as poorly as a Cybertruck, which is to say, help me out here, Knuckles from Sonic Heroes.
Shit!
Yeah, they handle like that. Now, this doesn't mean I hate the game. I just don't think it's that amazing, right? I actually had more fun with Sonic Heroes, but that's a video for another day. Now, there's one thing that I haven't mentioned yet that I'm sure someone commented about, which is Tiny Chao Garden, right? Everyone loves Tiny Chao Garden. In this version, you can link up your Game Boy and transfer stuff between the Game Boy Advance versions and do stuff like that. I'll be honest, I never really got that into it. I was never into Pokemon or anything like that where you have to raise a critter, RPG stat stuff. It's just not my style. I can understand why people enjoy it. It's just not for me. So Chao Garden, which is technically a side mode, doesn't do a whole lot for me. That would be like saying, oh, hey, Mario Party 5, it's just okay, but Super Dual Mode, that's amazing. You need to get this game just to play that. I don't think I would ever tell anyone that. Yeah, Super Dual Mode is cool, but is it worth buying this whole other game? So maybe for some people it is worth buying just for Tiny Chao Garden. But for me, that's not really a deal breaker here. So like I said, I don't entirely hate this game. I just thought it was average. And so I'm finally getting rid of it. Except technically that's a little bit of a fib because I do own it on Steam. And on Steam you can add mods and other things to tinker with it. And yeah, I kind of forgot that I had it on Steam. So anyway, the point is, me getting rid of this is actually good for you if you are a fan of the game. It's a simple supply and demand problem here, right? Retro games are a limited resource. All of the GameCube games that will ever be made have been printed and exist out there in the wild. But that supply is going to slowly dwindle year after year. Which means that someone like myself hanging on to a game when I'm not that much of a fan is actually doing you a disservice. So, as someone who really isn't a completionist, right? I don't need to have every single Tony Hawk. I don't need to have every Sonic game. I don't need to have this in my collection anymore. I played it, I had some fun, but I realized that most of that feeling that I had towards the game was nostalgia. And playing through it as an adult, it didn't really hold up for me. So I'm going to give this to a video game store, hopefully get some money for it, and someone else can walk away with a copy of this that actually wants it.